Everything changed in a matter of seconds. Literally just seconds. Welcome back to NFL Nexus, everyone. Before we dive into this incredibly cinematic explainer breaking down the exact blueprint of this offense and the really heavy, dark history that dictates every single move this front office makes today, I need you to do a few things. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, sound off in the comments down below on what you thought about all of this, and if you really want to help us out, support the channel by becoming a channel member. Your support is what allows us to keep grinding the tape, looking at the history, and bringing you the absolute best analysis of the game we love.
So we have to ask ourselves, what is the true cost of failing to protect a franchise quarterback? To really understand the absolute urgency of Washington's current roster building and the sheer undeniable desperation to protect their new investment, we can't just look at the present. We've got to look back. We have to examine a tragedy that honestly still haunts the halls of this entire franchise. It's a moment that didn't just end a promising season, it completely altered the trajectory of football in the nation's capital for more than a decade. It's a heavy question, but it's one we are tackling today. Now, the timeline of this disaster, it didn't actually begin in the playoffs. It started weeks before that. Let's set the scene. Week 14 against the Baltimore Ravens. Robert Griffin III, a rookie who was literally revolutionizing the NFL right before our eyes with that elite sub-4.4 speed and a completely lethal read option offense, suffers a grade 1 LCL sprain. Okay, so he misses just a single game before coming back to drag Washington to an NFC East title. But then, January 2013 rolls around, the NFC wildcard game against the Seattle Seahawks. From the very first series of the game, if you were watching, the eyeball test told a horrifying story. Griffin was visibly hobbled. He was limping heavily. He could not run the edge rushers. He was completely unable to protect himself in a collapsing pocket. And yet, what happened? The play calls just kept coming. Designed zone read runs. Then, late in the fourth quarter, attempting to field a bad snap on that notoriously terrible FedEx Field turf, his right knee just gave out. It buckled catastrophically without him even taking a hit from a defender. The results? A devastating tear of his ACL and his LCL. Now, to put that into perspective, the magnitude of that specific snap reverberated way beyond the medical tent. That single, agonizing moment didn't just tear ligaments in a young man's knee, it shattered an immense, completely unprecedented franchise investment. Think about this. Washington had traded 4 premium draft picks just to acquire him. We're talking a massive king's ransom here. 3 first-round picks, plus a second-rounder. They bet the absolute entire future of their organization on his legs. And in one cold January evening, that future just evaporated into thin air. You'd probably think that a whole decade is enough time for an organization and the player to heal, right? Well, wrong. This wound was just violently ripped wide open again publicly. Literally this week, RG3 goes viral. He hops on that whole Netflix documentary trend going around. He posts a video of himself actually sitting there in his full 2012 Washington game uniform. We're talking helmet, pads, the iconic number 10 jersey. And in the video, he casually shoves his Offensive Rookie of the Year trophy out of the frame. And right across the screen, he posts this exact caption: "Preparing for my Netflix documentary about why they kept running me when I only had one leg against Seattle in 2012. Wow. It was a digital declaration of war that got millions of views in just hours. And naturally, this viral moment immediately sparked a fierce, deeply polarized debate that honestly has never truly died down in NFL circles. Look, on one side, you have the argument of coaching malpractice. This is the belief that head coach Mike Shanahan, the medical staff, and the franchise as a whole failed in their ultimate duty of care. Critics of the staff argue that a 22-year-old hyper-competitor is absolutely never going to voluntarily bench himself in a home playoff game. Never. Leaving a severely compromised dual-threat quarterback out there on the field to run read options was, to a lot of people, a catastrophic failure of management. But hold on, because on the other side of the aisle, you have the argument of player insistence. Defenders of that coaching staff immediately point to the mic'd-up audio from NFL films. Audio that shows Griffin actively concealing the severity of his pain from the trainers and literally pleading with his teammates to keep quiet so he wouldn't be pulled from the game. Just listen to RG3's exact halftime quote to Mike Shanahan in that locker room. When Shanahan questioned him about his physical state, Griffin looked his head coach right in the eye and said, "There is a difference between injured and hurting. I guarantee I'm not injured." That right there is a tragic guarantee. And it perfectly underscores the modern gladiator's incredibly complex and often self-destructive relationship with their own physical health. It represents the ultimate dilemma in pro sports, the clash between a player's primal, undeniable drive to compete and the organization's absolute mandate to protect their asset. Section 2. protecting the future, the Jaden Daniels era. So why are we talking about this today? Because those ghosts of 2012 absolutely dictate Washington's modern reality. Right now, this franchise finds itself staring directly into a mirror. They've got a new, incredibly electric, dual-threat rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels. This is another generational talent, a guy whose legs are quite frankly just as dangerous as his arm. And the mandate from the front office this time around is crystal clear. History will not and cannot repeat itself. Jaden Daniels absolutely must be protected at all costs, period. So to ensure that the nightmare of 2012 stays in the past, Washington's front office went out and fundamentally changed the dynamics of their offensive line. They looked at that 2012 failure, where a vulnerable quarterback was left totally exposed to edge rushers on bad turf, and they countered it with a massive 2026 investment. They went out and acquired one of the absolute premier left tackles in the entire business, Laramie Tunsil. Boom, the blind side is immediately anchored. But, as we all know, an offensive line has two edges. So on the right side, they are elevating their 2025 first-round pick, Josh Conerly Jr., aiming to form the ultimate protective barrier. You can think of Conerly as the vanguard against a repeat of 2012. Now, a vanguard, by definition, is a group or individual leading the way in new developments. They are the foremost part of an advancing army. Conerly, who is currently ranked number 15 on the Commander's roster, is tasked with locking down that right tackle position. And let me tell you, that position simply cannot be a revolving door for this team any longer. During his rookie year, they threw him straight into the fire, and he ended up logging over 1,000 unforgiving snaps. Think about the toll that takes on a body. Playing tackle in the National Football League is not for the faint of heart. It is an absolutely brutal, intensely physical chess match every single Sunday. But let's keep it real for a second. When we look at the analytics, these raw metrics do not scream franchise tackle just yet. According to Pro Football Focus, Conerly finished his 2025 rookie season with an overall grade of 59.9 and a run-blocking grade of 63.4. But I need you to look very closely at that middle number, a 57.8 pass-blocking grade. Guys, in the modern NFL, that number is simply unacceptable for a lineman tasked with protecting a franchise quarterback. It just is. When your pass-blocking grade dips down into the 50s, it means the pocket is consistently collapsing. It means your young quarterback is feeling phantom pressure, he's rushing through his progressions, and most terrifyingly, he's taking the kinds of hits that shorten careers. And look, the struggles weren't strictly limited to his blocking technique. He also committed an alarming 13 penalties in his rookie year. 13! Regardless of whether you are a raw rookie or a 10-year seasoned veteran, 13 penalties is a glaring, drive-killing flaw. And here's the thing about penalties for an offensive lineman, it acts as blood in the water for opposing defensive coordinators. When a young tackle starts jumping off sides or holding out of pure desperation because he's getting beaten off the edge, elite pass rushers literally smell fear. They begin to load up on that side of the line, just pinning their ears back, knowing full well that the young player is starting to panic under the bright lights. Furthermore, he surrendered 8 total sacks on the season. That is a very heavy number when keeping Jaden Daniels healthy is your franchise's absolute top priority. But, and this is a big but, context here is absolutely vital. We have to note that 3 of those 8 sacks came very, very early in the season during a brutal Week 2 matchup against the Green Bay Packers. Listen, most young tackles come out of college and immediately get manhandled by the speed, the raw power, and the refined technique of elite NFL pass rushers. It is a harsh and often incredibly humiliating learning curve that almost every rookie goes through. But here is exactly where the optimism lies for Washington fans. Despite that incredibly rough, penalty-ridden start to his rookie campaign, a game-by-game breakdown of his PFF grades showed an undeniable, steady ascension over the second half of the season. You could see it on the tape. The game finally began to slow down for him. His footwork started to synchronize with his hand placement. This steady, week-over-week improvement points toward an incredibly high ceiling for the young tackle. It actually suggests that his current ranking of 15th on the roster might end up looking way, way too low by this time next offseason. And Conerly knows exactly what is at stake here, which is exactly why his offseason evolution has been so meticulous. He has spent these past few months dieting, eating significantly cleaner, and adding dense, functional muscle to his frame. See, his biggest weakness back in college was sometimes dropping anchor against pure power rushers. But his absolute greatest strength, that was always how fluidly he moves in the open field. He possesses this rare, almost freaky athleticism and lateral quickness for such a massive human being. So the goal now is to optimize that elite mobility so he can flawlessly execute the aggressive, lateral moving zone blocking scheme that's being installed by the new offensive coordinator, David Blau.
In this specific scheme, the offensive linemen have to move in complete unison. They need to flow like water to create those devastating cutback lanes. If Connerly can maintain his elite foot speed while carrying this new functional muscle, he is going to become a truly terrifying weapon in the run game. And honestly, this next part brilliantly captures the human element of roster building. Because you can draft all the raw talent in the world, right? But true winning culture? That is passed down directly from the veteran to the rookie. Enter Laramie Tunsil, one of the highest paid, most technically refined tackles in all of football. He has actively taken the young Connerly under his wing this offseason. In a recent interview, Tunsil was asked about the second-year tackle, and he said, "I see myself. I don't want to sound cliche. I see a dog. I see somebody who wants it. He wants to be great." Let me tell you, Washington would be absolutely ecstatic if even a single ounce of Tunsil's legendary technique, his nasty on-field disposition, and his elite drive rubbed off on their young investment. That mentorship is invaluable. Which brings us to the ultimate stakes of this upcoming 2026 season. Think about this scenario. If Josh Connerly Jr. can actually make that massive developmental leap on the right side, cleaning up his penalty issues and really anchoring his pass sets, while Laramie Tunsil continues to just completely lock down the left side, Washington will finally possess what every single NFL general manager dreams of having: true elite bookend tackles. Having elite bookends fundamentally changes the geometry of a football field. It completely legitimizes your rushing attack, it forces opposing defenses to play honest, and most importantly, it buys time. Precious, precious time. Time to unleash the full creative arsenal of coordinator David Blau's playbook. And time to unleash the terrifying, game-breaking dual-threat capabilities of Jaden Daniels without that constant looming fear of a catastrophic injury. So we return right back to where we began today, staring down the dark ghosts of the past. Will history repeat itself, or has this franchise finally, painfully learned the ultimate cost of protection? Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about a right tackle's PFF grade creeping up from a 57.8. No, it is about altering the entire destiny of a franchise that has, frankly, suffered enough heartbreak to last a lifetime. The blueprint is drawn, the massive investments have been made, and the veterans are stepping up to teach the youth. But the reality of the National Football League is ruthless, and we won't truly know the answer to that question until the lights come on.